All right, everybody. My name is Josh Brown. Those of you who don't know me, which may be a lot of you, and I'm here with Anthony AJ Jones, who is a LinkedIn expert. On my side of it, I help coaches and other leaders build epic courses. And AJ, tell them a little bit about your background.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Josh. Really appreciate it. So I have spent pretty much my entire career, almost 20 years, in the nonprofit space. For 20 years, I had the privilege of working with an awesome team at Ducks Unlimited, which is the world leader in wetland and
Mm-hmm.
waterfowl conservation, and oversaw a team that managed all of the digital programs for the organization. So website, social media, online fundraising, email marketing, and so forth. We raised over $40 million online while we were there, and fantastic experience. And I mentioned that social media was part of the oversight that I had, and about 4 or 5 years ago, LinkedIn was kind of coming onto our radar. But it was like that one social network that I didn't have any personal experience with. Like the only time I ever used LinkedIn was if I was looking to hire someone for my team. And so I decided that it would probably make sense for me to kind of get some hands-on experience with it. So long story short, I started posting content, and over the course of a couple of years, that content had helped build my network up to 39,000 followers. And in 2020, when COVID hit, the world shut down, I had people all of a sudden start reaching out to me on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, would
Mm-hmm.
you help me with my profile?"
Let me stop
Because
you right there for people who don't know about LinkedIn. Okay, there's a lot of people where, like, this came recorded on Facebook. 39,000 followers puts you in like the 0.0001% of users on LinkedIn because it's not a vanity metric system. They're not, it's not like, oh, unless you have a million followers on Instagram where they're like just shotgun out. 39,000 followers on LinkedIn is massive. Like massive, massive. And because we know each other, how many video views have you had?
I don't. It's in the hundreds of thousands somewhere. I don't know the
Which
exact.
is huge.
8 million views to all of the content.
8
8 million in total.
million views.
Yeah.
Again, which is massive, massive numbers. Okay, so I know you like downplayed that, like, oh, 38,000. That's so. I mean, like, I don't even have close to that. Like, I'm like at a solid like 4,000 or something, and you're in like that holy grail territory out there. So sorry, carry on. I just like, if people are over on Facebook and they don't know those numbers, they're like, oh, that's 38,000, and it's like that, add like two zeros, and that's the equivalent of like all the other platforms. So
Well, I appreciate you pointing that out. I appreciate that.
yeah.
In 2020, when the world shut down, a lot of people were losing jobs. They were worried about losing a job, or they had spare time on their hands. And like out of nowhere, people started contacting me saying, "Will you help me with my profile?" Like all of a sudden, LinkedIn became important again. And it
Mm-hmm.
started out with me just kind of, giving people advice, free advice as much as I could. Over the course of a few months, that had turned into a side business that I never planned, that I never expected. And then over the course of the next year and a half, that side business had gained enough momentum that in November of last year, it was time for me to either go all in or not, and decided to take the leap, start my own consulting business. It's been the most terrifying decision I've ever made, but also the most rewarding. So here we are now, and today I enjoy what I do because I help business owners, I help
Mm-hmm.
organizations, leverage the power of LinkedIn to generate more leads, land more clients, and just get more visibility for their brands.
Yeah, and that is one of the things that so many people don't understand with LinkedIn is the additional power in that how people come to the platform, their mindset of how they're pre-framed is so different. They're not coming there to look at pictures of cute dogs and their families and things like that. They're there to do business. They're there for a specific task. And when they show up, they're very aware of how it's going to be different. It's just like if I went over and literally just took a snip of this video right now and threw it on TikTok, people are like, that's not fun. It's not eye catching. But if I go and put this on LinkedIn, all of a sudden people are going to be like, oh, this has good value. I'm going to stick around for this. And they're going to watch it. Like, it's what you're coming for.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So, one of the first things people are going to notice that's different when they drop into LinkedIn and all, if they've been on things like Facebook or Instagram or whatever it might be, is the difference in the profile. And tell me, like, what do you see as somebody who's been now in this platform now for years and have seen what attracts attention and gets the results? What do you see as the number one must do's and biggest mistakes when somebody's setting up their profile?
Yeah. So, some of the biggest mistakes overall, one is they approach LinkedIn like it is a job board. And like that's LinkedIn 10, 15 years ago. And today,
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn is a true social network. And you need to think of LinkedIn as if you were going, like every time you log on, as if you're going to a professional networking event, like at a conference. And if you're at an event like that, you're not going to walk up to someone and say, "Hi, my name is Anthony Jones, and I want to increase your lead flow by 240% over the next 2 weeks. You want to jump on a call?" Like something like that. That's not how people interact in the real world. But
No.
that's one of the mistakes people make on LinkedIn is they hop on and they immediately, start dropping cold sales pitches in the DMs, thinking that that's going to actually work in 2022. And
Give you a
and
hint, it does not. And if you want to piss off a lot of people, do that really quickly.
that's exactly right. So you really need to approach it from that mindset. And another mistake that people make is they're not posting original content. And I can talk more about that in a minute, but like that's really what establishes your personal brand. Everyone has a LinkedIn profile, but most people don't post content on a regular basis. And it's that content that you post that really builds that know, like, trust factor that's really so critical for, making any type of connection or sales in the B2B world.
Yeah, because that is so important for people to realize, is that even that it's actually one of the fastest growing platforms still, in particular outside the US. So if you have international customers, you should not sit on this platform, like, at all. And it's like, what's the ballpark of people who actively post who have a LinkedIn profile?
Yeah. So there are over 750 million people who have an account on LinkedIn, but less than 1% post original content on a weekly basis. And that's about 3 million people who are getting a collective 9 billion views, billion with a B, to their content every week on LinkedIn. And like I've referred to this as like the good old days of LinkedIn because, unlike Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, that have become so oversaturated with content, unless you're paying for ads, you're not being seen at any real level of scale. But LinkedIn and really TikTok are the two channels out there today where you can still get massive organic reach if you have good content, regardless of your network size. So like
Yep.
take advantage of these good old days of LinkedIn right now.
Yep. And on top of it, just like how you can take Instagram or Facebook and cross post it from one to the other, you can do the same thing with LinkedIn to Twitter too. Like, it's, such an easy push for doing that. Now, one of the big things in all of this is understanding the dynamic differences in these things work. And you said in particular that you need to make sure that you're producing original content. What are people putting out there that's not working?
Yeah. So, like, what most people do when they come to LinkedIn, most people are lurkers. They're there to learn. They're absorbing, but they don't know what to post. They don't know what's appropriate. There's still a certain level of just uneasiness that people have,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they're employed. They're afraid of saying the wrong thing or posting the wrong thing that
Mm-hmm.
may get them in trouble or something. So that's one thing. Um, The other mistake that people make in terms of content is all they do is just reshare. They'll reshare a job post that their company page made, or they'll reshare a press release
Mm-hmm.
that their company put out. But that's not the content that we engage with on a human level, because people
Mm-hmm.
connect with people and not the corporate content that is so, I guess, people are so accustomed to sharing on the platform.
Okay. I mean, because that is, you see that a lot. Like anybody who spends any time on there, you'll see share, 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 and that does not benefit the algorithm on LinkedIn. Does not benefit you at all for that. You don't get any of that velocity on
Exactly.
there, and things do, just like on other platforms, go viral on LinkedIn when people start sharing it. But the only people who actually get the benefit of that viral post and sharing it is the original post creator, not anybody else.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, what would you say are the three most important things people need to do on LinkedIn to build their brand or initially start getting leads? Like, what are some hot tips on getting that started?
Yeah. So three biggies. Number one, it all starts with optimizing your profile. And in my experience, everyone has a profile, but most of them are just collecting dust on the internet. They're outdated. They are not taking advantage of so many of the new tools and features that LinkedIn has rolled out just in the last few months. There's a lot. And the other mistake there is people approach their profiles, even business owners, from their own perspective, when what you really need to be doing is tailoring your profile around your ideal client. If a prospect is looking at your profile, you need to clearly articulate who you are, what you do, and who you help, because they need to see that solution in there. If they're looking at your profile, they want to know what's in it for them. So make sure you speak directly to your customer when you optimize your profile. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is kind of what we talked about earlier, is posting your own original content.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where most people get tripped up on LinkedIn, because they don't know what to post. They feel like they're not a quote unquote expert, like they're not qualified to share content. And of course, I've come to know that's called imposter syndrome. And it's something that, it affects so many people. It's impacted me a lot over the years. When I first started posting, I felt like, even though I had over 15 years of experience in the nonprofit, digital marketing, and fundraising space, I felt like I wasn't qualified to say anything about it on LinkedIn. But the truth is, we all have lessons that we've learned in our career that we can share, that would be valuable for
Mm-hmm.
others to hear. And when you start your content strategy, as you start building that strategy, there's two things you need to do. One, you want to share content that shows who you are as a person, showing your personality. Because I've made over 1,000 posts over the last few years, and it never fails. The content that I put out that is related to, like, my family, maybe a vacation, a hobby, a passion, that content outperforms everything else like 10 to 1. And it's because it's that type of content that's relatable. We relate to that as humans. And I know that, there's a lot of people who say, LinkedIn isn't Facebook, and that's true. But people still connect with people on a very human level. So that content is important. But you also want to mix in content that shows who you are, your thought leadership in your space. And if you do nothing else, post content that adds value to your network. Because at the end of the day, if people are getting valuable content and they're learning from you, you're going to be top of mind for them whenever they need a product or service that you have to offer.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean it's basically the same. I mean, people for some reason get this like head issue of like, oh well, it's so different, and then like it's actually easier to post value content on LinkedIn than other platforms, because also it's not a war of attrition of just how much can you throw at the wall. It's definitely like much more of like, yeah, you need to be consistent, but it's a quality over quantity game. Much
Absolutely.
more. You can have long form posts and people will read them, and you can have an instructional video and people will watch them and all of those things. So yeah, I mean that's huge to vary it. And like, do you think it's something like maybe let's say 3/4 should be value, and then you could throw like a quarter sort of humanizing type post in there? Is that like a good ratio?
Yeah, I think that's a great mix, and it will vary person to person. Some people are going to be naturally more reserved, and they're not going to want to put a whole lot of that content out there, and I understand that. So it will vary person to person, but yes, find ways to show your personality so that people will connect with you
Mm-hmm.
on a human level. And to your other point there, make sure that you are varying the types of content that you're putting out. Whether it's long form one day, a picture the next day, videos. LinkedIn is really doubling down on
Mm-hmm.
videos right now, and it's no surprise. They've seen the success of TikTok, YouTube, and
Mm-hmm.
people just are really absorbing that content more than they ever have, especially short form videos. And like for me personally, I'm doubling down on my video content over the next year because video allows you to establish that level of trust with your network that no other media type can, because it's literally you talking. It's showing your personality, and people connect and remember that video content a lot better than a lot of other styles.
Yeah, LinkedIn has definitely doubled down on that quite a bit, and in particular, because it's like you have to actually submit for the live videos to have that functionality, or at least for a long time you had to. They were doing
They just
that.
just recently changed it. Yeah,
Okay, because like I remember it was like a big deal like a year ago when I was like, "Woo! I finally got I could do my lives." Like I was like,
yeah.
yeah, like now they're giving it to everybody. Oh, dang
I,
it.
I applied for the I applied for the lives like 3 times and was rejected every time. I don't know why, but when they finally rolled out creator mode, which is an option on your profile, if you enable that, you automatically get access to LinkedIn Live now.
Very cool. Now let's walk through this of you know the majority of people that are going to be using LinkedIn. It's going to be for B2B.
Hmm.
That's really the big thing, or business to professional, not necessarily like I see a lot of life coaches and things like that. So it's not like, okay, saw a marketing agency post, my hire a marketing agency, or I need a accountant, I saw an accountant. It can be other things, but you're not going to go on LinkedIn to find your local baker for a cake. It's like it's not really what it's for. So why has it? What are some of the like utilities and power that allow it to be such a good B2B utility?
Well, and I think it's because that's where decision makers are going to look for those
Mm-hmm.
services. They're looking at your profile for credibility. They're looking at your company pages for credibility, and it really goes back to what we talked about earlier. So many people are getting it wrong on LinkedIn. The ones who are getting it right and who are showing up with a content strategy that's positioning them as an expert, building that know like trust factor, like that's how you're going to get that's how you're going to stand out and ultimately win leads and clients on LinkedIn. And back to the other point as well, only 1% of the population is actually doing it the right way right now. So it's just such a great opportunity to stand out from the rest of the crowd.
Yeah, because the other thing is with it too is you do have the ability to directly look for who your ideal client is, and that's something none of the other platforms have. And this is something that particularly the diehard Facebookers and stuff like that. It's like, well, to find your ideal client, you have to like look like for clues of like, oh, they're in a Facebook group that is similar to mine, or it's I can sort of do a search inside Facebook, but
Hmm.
like LinkedIn has Sales Navigator, where for B2B you can literally pinpoint the exact person. I'm like, yes, that is the person I want, and go after them. I
Right.
mean, company size, location, when were they last active, market cap, you know, all of those things, and get directly to it, which again saves a huge amount of time and effort, and is a unique apparatus inside LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah. The search features within LinkedIn and especially Sales Navigator, like you said, you can really narrow down and find your ideal clients out there. And like one of the biggest tips that I could give you, and I share this with all of my clients and companies that I work with. The best way to get in front of a prospect is not necessarily with your content. It is by supporting the content they're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
Because as content creators, we all remember the names and the faces of people who show up and like our content and leave meaningful comments.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you don't have Sales Navigator, you could, let's say you have a prospect that you want to get in front of, go to their profile, and you'll notice one of the new features is a little bell that is right below their banner image. If you click that bell, you'll get notified every time they make a post. So try to go in and be one of the first people who like that post, leave a meaningful comment. Over time, a lot of things that could potentially happen there. They may send you a connection request. If you're doing this on a consistent basis, it may make the conversation a lot easier that when you try to open that up for a sales conversation. So go out, find the content that your prospects are posting, and support that. I cannot tell you how powerful that can be in terms of getting their attention.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean that's one of those things. In fact, I was actually talking to somebody the other day about the Dream 100 thing of what's the best way to get a prospect to recognize you, and it's you know comment on their stuff, like it. And also on a lot of these platforms too is you know you aren't going to get as many of like the comment floods that others will. So people are more likely to look at them. Like for example, I took and just as a little example of that before the meeting is, one of the people I follow because I'm in business and marketing. I follow Russell Brunson's stuff, and you go to like Instagram, it'll be 1,000+ comment and get thumbs up, stars, hearts, blah blah, all these things, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments. The post he did yesterday on LinkedIn, it was exactly the same. Um, you know, between these, it was so it's not like okay, one post flopped and the other post didn't. Is okay, it had 31 comments and 228 reactions.
Mm-hmm.
And another one had 345 comments, and only 9 people shared it. Like,
Right.
major huge media influencer has 70,000 followers, but that's the reach. So it's like if you are trying to Dream 100 somebody, if you are trying to build that network, and you are somebody who'll take the time in there and go in and get engaged, they're gonna notice you more. They're going to.
And the comments within most LinkedIn posts are typically constructive. Like it generates a good conversation back and forth.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the case. If you look at the comments thread on a Facebook post or a tweet or Instagram, it is absolutely brutal.
The dumpster fire that occurs afterwards.
Absolute dumpster fire. Like I stay away from the comments on those platforms,
Oh
but
god.
I go into the comments on
Yeah.
most LinkedIn posts because that's where you get a lot of value, and that's where you discover a lot of people that whether you want to do business with them or not, people that you want to follow and engage with because there are people there
Hmm.
that you can learn from, and that's a big way that I've built my network over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Exactly. So, we took and we covered a whole lot of stuff, and in fact, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you think we should do this again?
I'd love to.
Awesome. So, as this is actually going to become a new spot, we're testing it right now. We tried this initially. This was getting posted in a Facebook event, and we're trying it there. We're going to try doing profiles and things, but the unofficial name of this is it's going to be a happy hour event to learn business tips, tactics, things like that. AJ was our inaugural kickoff person.
Guinea
Um,
pig.
it was a
Again, this
guinea
is
pig on it.
yeah.
Hey, the place isn't burned down yet. We're doing good. But I know you have, a program. We've been working on it here at the Epic Course Agency, and it's absolutely spectacular. So I want people to know about it. Can you tell people how they can get a hold of you, what help you can provide them, and all that?
You bet. So yeah, I provide a range of services, everything from an online course to one-on-one coaching for you and your business, customized training for your team, sales teams, executive teams, as well as helping organizations build brand ambassador programs with their employees. So the best way to
Mm-hmm.
reach me is to find me on LinkedIn or just book a call with me at reachanthony.com.
Yep. And the thing is that particularly if you're in B2B, you're in high ticket, you're anything like that, getting your profile dialed in will pay you dividends over and over and over again. Just using the techniques AJ got. 2 calls this week I had booked off of LinkedIn. These are from what AJ taught me. Have landed me in both of the times. The person, one of the very first things in the first minute and a half was commenting on my profile. They were saying like, I saw your information, I saw your messaging, and it's interesting. I had to book the call. You
It
don't get
works.
that on Facebook. People come in and they're already like, "What are you trying to sell me?" Like
Yeah.
on LinkedIn, they're like, "Okay, tell me about it. Let's see if we can do business." Like it's a very different thing. So if you're new to LinkedIn, if you're trying to reignite it, if you're trying to dial it in, book call with AJ. You can get your own profile dialed in. He has a great course as well. But also, if you have a team, you said you can also basically help tune up your whole team to turn into a marketing machine for you.
Absolutely. And I'll end on a quick story on that note. So a couple of weeks ago, I was putting together a proposal for a company on LinkedIn, and they had a really good established presence. They had about 14,000 people who followed their company page, but they wanted to do more. And so as I went through and put the proposal together, I looked at the individual profiles of the 30 employees that they had, and I added up the total number of connections of those 30 employees. And it turns out they have 123,000 people in the network of those employees. And like, that's the secret weapon. It's not your company page. 14,000 may be great, but 123,000, that's a game changer. And that's what so many organizations are missing as part of their marketing strategy on LinkedIn is leveraging the power of their employees on the platform. So I would love to help you do that if that's something that you're interested in.
Yeah, because I mean, with that, you convert 1% of those. Yeah, I mean, for
Yeah,
most businesses, you're adding a minimum of a million in bottom in revenue right
right.
there. I mean that's easy money at a million right there. Like that's not even bringing in your good sales guys. They're on a retreat in Boca. That's like keeping the B team in at 1% off of that level of people. So yeah, I mean it's that this has all been super helpful. Again, if you're sitting on LinkedIn, you gotta know the differences. Talk to AJ if you want to have somebody help you dial it in. And you said it's bookanthony.com.
ReachAnthony.com.
Reachanthony.com. We'll drop the link in the comments below. And all right, everybody. Thank you, AJ.